All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Faribault here on Penn Live. As usual, let's talk today about a topic that I think a lot of people have been buzzing about, and I don't think is fully being represented in the correct light. I want to talk about the Steelers run game, and I want to talk about Najee Harris and kind of all the variables that are going into the Pittsburgh Steelers run game. And just let me say this right off the bat. I see a lot of people blaming solely Najee Harris for the rushing game's miscues, and I think that's a simplistic way to view it. I understand Cordero Patterson came on for one drive and lit a world on fire at six rushes for 43 yards. I mean, he basically ran the ball down the field, but that's not really just what, you know, tape shows, I think, for this. I think that was probably their best block drive of the game, coincidentally, on top of that. And Najee Harris didn't have as many holes as he did. So I think there's a few things to take from there. Now, let's talk about kind of where I want to start, which is I think where Najee Harris and Cordero Patterson and Jalen Warren kind of fit into this scheme. I do not think Najee Harris is a very good schematic fit. We talked about this on Tuesday, if you were watching that show, it's the longer show. And I kind of explained this in depth why I didn't think he was a great fit. They run a ton of outside zone. They run more outside zone than most teams in the NFL. I think they're like fourth in outside zone usage. Right now, I think like the teams above them are like the 49ers, the Falcons, teams that run a ton of outside zone. The McVay tree, yeah, Shanahan tree. Those teams obviously run a ton of outside zone, and Arthur Smith is part of that because he takes a lot from what he does from Matt LaFleur, head coach of the Packers. So there's a lot of that there. But Najee Harris is not built for that. He averages less than 3 yards per carry on outside zone. This year, I think it's like 2.9 yards per carry. It's not very good. When you look at the metrics on things like inside zone, gap runs. They're better. He's averaging almost 6 yards per carry on inside zone. He's averaging, I think, 4.5 yards per carry on duo. I think it's only about 4 yards per carry on gap runs. Depends on the gap runs. Power is a little bit better than, say, trap or crunch, which are really hard hitting ones, quick hitting ones too. Najee Harris is always going to be a limited running back in some scope because he doesn't have the burst. He doesn't have this incredible speed. He doesn't really have the like the quicks right away, right? He's not a guy that's going to cut back right away and create a ton of yards through quickness. He's going to create it through physicality and patience. And when you are in a scheme that runs so much zone, you need to hit those spots and hit those cutback lanes really quickly. It's not going to be pretty. And not only that, the Steelers just aren't blocking things well. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of like missed assignments. There's a lot of whiffing from this offensive line. Can't get to the linebacker at the second level. Well, Najee Harris ain't out running that linebacker. And so I don't really feel like Najee Harris is missing holes on film. I'm not seeing him miss holes. It's not like they're gaping holes that he's missing that Cordero Patterson is hitting. Cordell Patterson is a really nice scheme fit because he's a downhill runner that hits top speed right away and just goes. That is something that he brings to the table, and that's a much better schematic fit than someone who's a grinder who goes downhill and is more of a physical player. When you look at, inside zone, duo, in those gap runs, those are more similar. Like inside zone can be blocked like a gap run, essentially. It's a zone run, but it's a different type of zone run. It's not the same as mid zone and wide zone. And so this feels like Najee Harris's weaknesses are just being really, really magnified right now. And I think people are getting a little overzealous with it. Like, this is a good back. I've seen him be a good back. He was a really good back last year, especially down the stretch. He's proven that plenty over his career. So I think it's just an overreaction to say this guy can't do it. We've seen him do it. It feels like Arthur Smith just hasn't really tweaked the scheme to what Najee Harris's strengths is, and maybe they're still learning each other and everything like that. But like that's where we're at right now. And so I think you need to tweak his usage if you're Arthur Smith, and you need to go back to the drawing board and say, why are we running so much wide zone with the guy that's not very good at it? And it's completely okay to run wide zone with someone like a Cordero Patterson, a Jalen Warren, like et cetera, et cetera. And even Warren, Warren's great on those gap runs. So when they run things like crunch, power, and trap, when he comes back, he's going to be awesome on those runs. He was great on them last year. And I think the Steelers kind of need that part of it back. But Najee Harris is not a good schematic fit because his style, patience, plotting style, with the lack of immediate burst, is just not a good fit when you are trying to run laterally and cut. That's a lot of what they're asking him to do. So I'd like to see the inside zone stuff. And it's no coincidence the Steelers averaged almost 5.5 yards per carry on inside zone runs. It's their most successful run. And so a lot of the struggles that we have talked about with the run game are tied to schematics not fitting Najee Harris. They're tied to lack of details with the offensive line, missing blocks at the second level, not getting backside linebackers or front side linebackers that would open up holes for Najee Harris. A lot of that is an issue. And so it's not the perfect surroundings for a guy like Najee to maximize his efficiency. He's not going to get many explosive runs, but if he can get 5, 6 yards, you'd be happy. But they're getting, -2, -1 because the explosiveness isn't there. And so when you see a guy like Cordero Patterson who just goes boom and zooms right in, it fits what they want to do better because it's supposed to be snap, quick hit in some of these instances. So the Steelers probably need to change it a little bit and try to get Najee Harris into those advantageous schemes. As for the run game itself, it has issues beyond just the fact that Najee Harris isn't a great schematic fit. We talked about, of course, the offensive line part of that, and listen, there are some very bad missed assignments. There's some confusion on some of these run plays. You'll see gap runs where there are three guys blocking the same dude. You'll see a zone run where someone just completely misses the backside backer or the front side backer on a reach block and blocks the wrong guy. You'll see the guard take the tight ends guy. You'll see all of these things, and there's a lot of confusion. And a big part of that is because they have had four different combination of offensive lines in 4 weeks, and they're about to have a fifth one. Isaac Seumalo will definitely help that, and that'll be a boost to this run game. But that's part of it. The second part of it is their personnel is not tweaked to the scheme. This is Najee Harris, but this is also asking Van Jefferson to go dig out guys from condensed sets and allowing safeties to get free runs because he can't do it, and he can't do it. It's simple stuff like that. Like the coaching right now in the run game for the Steelers is not setting the players up to succeed. And that is a huge reason why they own the lowest success rate right now in the NFL on early downs. It's a huge reason why they have the second most attempted third down attempts in the NFL right now because they can't stay ahead of the sticks. They're very good on third down, but it'd be better if you didn't have to bet on the third down efficiency staying like that because there might be regression to the mean. And if that starts to happen, it's going to be a little ugly. And so start passing the ball down early because these teams are teeing off on you right now on first and second down because you are running the ball so much. They are blitzing a linebacker or an edge player or a safety straight off the edge and just coming downhill. You're getting stacked boxes. So that's not good, first of all. You're not getting the numbers game on a lot of these runs. Your personnel isn't blocking well when you have the numbers game, and your scheme doesn't truly fit some of the players that you're utilizing in roles right now, including your top running back, who has basically been rendered an inefficient mess so far this year. And while he's maybe not the most efficient back or the most explosive back, this is a guy that can be a good football player. And Najee definitely holds some of the blame. Like, listen, he has always had this style where he's been a schematically limited player. And he's just not this super explosive dude. And I don't think he ran as hard as he usually does against the Colts, but I think it's such an overreaction to put the run game struggles on one guy. Cordero Patterson right now is definitely the best schematic fit. If they're going to stick with what they're doing, he's the guy that is the best schematic fit for them. And that's why you see him having that success. But like we'll see kind of where things go from here. But the Steelers have a chance here against this Dallas Cowboys rushing defense. It's a really bad run defense. I mean, I know we said that last week about the Colts, but the Colts at least had some promising underlying metrics that prove that I kind of said, okay, this run defense probably isn't as bad as the raw totals are. And I think that's going to kind of be true throughout the next few weeks. I think we're going to start to see the Colts kind of level off and become a better run defense than people thought after just a historically bad first 2 weeks. But this Cowboys run defense is really bad, and they're missing Demarcus Lawrence and they're missing Michael Parsons. You should be able to run on this team. And so we'll see. The Steelers have to mix things up. They have to start passing the ball. They have to start being a little bit more unpredictable on the early downs. You cannot let these guys just tee off on you. And then you need to start tweaking your run schemes to specific players. Like you need to start giving Najee Harris what he's good at. If you want to run outside zone, that's Jalen Warren or Cordero Patterson. Like you have to start tweaking things to specific players because right now it feels like Arthur Smith is just kind of like, this is what I run, we're going to run it, and you're not really focusing on the players. A good OC always focuses on who he has and who he wants to run these certain schemes. And so that's going to be what is going to be a big part of the Steelers' evolution offensively. The run game's going to have to get going. Obviously, the passing game has been pretty good. Like the Steelers have honestly been a pretty good passing game, and so the steps in the right direction offensively are there. We talked about this last Thursday when I said that why this could be sustainable, and because the passing game has been good in the drop back passing game, but this run game can get more efficient on early downs and stop putting them in so many third downs, and you can clean up some of the schematics because I think the schematics are just a huge part of why they're not running the ball well right now. Then I think that will obviously give them a massive step in the right direction for this offense. And this offense can go from just being, kind of below average. It's better than what it was last year, but still not great, to an actual offense where like, okay, this offense can get you to where you want to go. I think that's going to be pretty important for them. So just want to talk about the run game and kind of expound my thoughts here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more. If you were listening to this on podcasting platform, make sure to leave a review. Folks, thanks for listening as always. We'll be back tomorrow.